Today on Twin Cam, I'm driving a 2002 Land Rover Discovery 2 and I'm going to show you why it's all the 4x4 you'll ever need. First of all, what is the Discovery? Well, it's at the top of the Land Rover range, just below the Range Rover. At the time, the Land Rover range consisted of this, the Freelander and the Defender. The Discovery was based off a Range Rover chassis, which meant it's incredibly good off-road. In fact, Austin says it's even better than his Defender. This is the sort of car that would be bought by a farmer as a family car. He's already got a Defender for use on the farm and wants a family car that's a little bit more luxurious than a Defender, but he can't afford a Range Rover anymore. The Range Rover became so upmarket during the 80s and 90s that when the Discovery was introduced in 1989, it took a bit of the Range Rover's market share. In fact, Rover were really worried throughout most of the 90s that the Range Rover would fall in sales due to the Discovery. For that reason, they took away a few features from the Discovery, including a locking differential, something that was brought back into the range for the Series 2 Discovery Facelift in 2003. This car doesn't have that because it was an optional extra, but it's something useful to know. Now, the Disco 2 is quite obviously the same car as the Disco 1, but Land Rover made some really quite serious changes to the car, including revising every single panel on the car, save for this rear door, to make the car look less utilitarian and more modern for the 21st century. The extent to which the Disco 2 changed from the Disco 1 could be seen quite clearly by this enormous rear overhang. This was introduced in order to make the car slightly longer, to fit 2 extra passengers in the back, but it did adversely affect off-road capability. Not that that was a massive thing anyway, because the Disco was so good being based off a Range Rover chassis. This is a rather attractive beast. More curvy than the Disco 1, but still a very focused and agricultural design, with the lines in the body perfectly breaking up the large panels and enhancing the appeal of the Discovery into the 21st century. Personally, and this is quite a controversial opinion, I think this is better looking than every single Land Rover or Range Rover launched since. But the big changes to the Discovery are under the skin, as it was a major beneficiary of BMW's financial stimulus to Rover, being launched in 1998, the same year as Rover's new 75. Link to that video in the corner. This kind of modification to the Discovery might not have been something that could ever have happened without BMW's financial input to Rover. The Disco 1 probably would have carried on until 2004 when the Disco 3 was launched, although by then the entire climate had changed with Ford owning Land Rover. Engine choices are all different from the Discovery 1, with the 2.5 litre TD5 from the Defender, along with 4 litre and 4.6 litre Rover V8s from the Range Rover completing the set. The 4 litre variant was actually the same displacement as the old 3.9, but with new crankshafts, conrods and pistons among other modifications, keeping the engine viable in the 21st century. The 4.6 litre one came later in 2003. This particular car has the TD5, a development of the highly acclaimed Rover L-Series diesel engine, obviously with an extra cylinder. This was known as Project Storm within Rover. In the Discovery, it produces 136 horsepower and, more importantly, 221 pound-feet of torque when attached to this 5-speed manual transmission. I've escaped from the rain and come to have a little sit inside the Disco. Now, you might have noticed this car has no plates. There's nothing dodgy going on, it's just this car's been sold, and Austin, the owner of it, doesn't want the new owners to be wrangled in anything to do with this video, because this video will be released after the car has been sold. Inside the Discovery, it's got pretty much everything you could ever wish for. You can fit as many bodies as you like, 7 seats in this one. There's no more you really need from a car. It has a hell of a lot of room. Austin has just come back from a camping holiday in this, and it's still got all this stuff in the back. I'll show you all that later. But these seats, grab handles on the side, because Land Rover, they're quite stiff. They don't really press very much, but that shows the quality of this car. This is a 17-year-old car now, and these seats are pretty much brand new, despite the fact that mine has a seat cover on it. I have no idea. Now, the centre control stack here is maybe a little bit weird. You've got the 2 face vents here and here, which are all very normal, and the radio in between them. Below that, you have the climate control, again, very normal. Standard cable-operated affair. No, I'm going the wrong way around. Oh, that's quite nice, actually. That's not, that's electronically actuated, that one. In fact, they're all electronic. Flipping heck. That's really nice. I didn't expect that. and slide it for your fan control. That actually is the lowest rent part of this. These feel rather nice, and reset button there. That's pretty normal. But each side you have a rather haphazardly put together layout of buttons. You've got your hill descent control, rear axle thing, all that sort of stuff, your off-roady stuff. You've got a heated rear window and your hazard lights. Below that you have a little coin tray with 2 blanking plugs there. It does just feel a little bit weird because on the other side you have a digital clock, an ashtray, which is there, and your lock button. This does all feel like it's set out a little bit weirdly. It's not quite what I'd expect. But on the top of the dashboard, you've got loads of storage. You've got a little tray here with a mat. I'm not sure what you'd use that for, but you've got place for drinks and stuff there, along with your obligatory Land Rover handle. 2 face vents on either side, as per usual. And down here you have your light adjustment. That is the same control as a fan switch from a Metro, and your standard Rover mirror adjustment. Below this you have cup holders here, which are really useful, 2 of them. Not enough cars have good cup holders, but they are good ones. You have cigarette lighter, which is for USB chargers in this one. You've got your transfer box, and obviously your gearbox, which is big, loose gear throw as you'd expect in a Land Rover, and then handbrake. But here are your electric window controls, which do feel very utilitarian, and your lockout for the rear windows, which is a standard Rover switch. All these buttons are in the middle, and they're a little bit awkward to use maybe, but that is standard just so that they didn't have to engineer multiple buttons, because Rover being Rover. As I've said, storage-wise, you have these up here. You also have a glove box, which is a standard Rover glove box, which is full of crap I'm not going to look at. And a centre armrest, which is full of stuff, and folds out into the back with cup holders on it. That's very useful. In the doors you do have these small pockets which aren't particularly useful, and a grab handle. The door handles are way down on the door. I'll give you a little demonstration here. I mean, look at that. I mean, that's absolutely useless. But then again, if you do drive Land Rovers, you will know all about that, because that's the norm. In front here you have these dials, obviously this being a TD5 one. The rev counter doesn't go up very far. Coolant temperature gauge, fuel gauge. It's all you really need. Again, this car has quite basic instrumentation because it is just a car. There's nothing that special to it. You have your fog lamp controls here, and yeah, quality. Rear wiper controls on the right hand side. That's a very Rover thing to do. There's your wash, there is your wipe, you have cruise control, and your fuel door. So, wipers. You pull to wash. There's intermittent first speed, second speed. That is your interval for your intermittent, and that is your mist function if you push down. On the other side you have the indicators, and I'm going to have to move the steering wheel around for this. So now that I've moved the steering wheel around, we have the lights. So that is off, side lights, headlights, obviously indicators, your flash, and you pull again for your main beam. That's pretty normal. This is exactly how all Rover stalks at the time worked. I'll show you down in the footwell just for interest. You do have a footrest on the side of the clutch. Really large pedals so that you can use them with massive boots on. Obviously, if you are a farmer buying this car, you'll need that. Clutch pedal is really heavy. Brake pedal feels a little bit vague maybe, but that might be just this car. And your throttle pedal is way too far to the right and has so much travel to it. It's unimaginable. Holy trinity of warning lights there, as anyone with a Discovery will know. This one has 126,000 miles. I have no idea whether that's genuine or not, but because it's been raining, we can do a wiper test. Triangle of doom. Not great, really not great at all. But of course this is an enormous windscreen, so there's a massive unswept area in the corner, but that's pretty normal. Up at the top you have handy little storage areas up here, very Land Rover-esque. Of course this is such a tall car. And look at that, you have height. That's very cool. And these enormous sun visors, I'm not sure whether they can zoom out enough to even see them. No mirror in them, but they are enormous. You have your dome light in the middle, and I don't know whether that opens. No, it doesn't. And the same on the other side, although that one has a mirror because luxury. Now, I'll be honest, this car doesn't feel very well put together at all, really. It has done 152,000 miles and it is used every day. It goes off-road and all that sort of stuff, but some of the bits do feel very badly put together. The whole Land Rover build quality thing is true of this generation. I've just shown you the dash cluster that just rattles about like anything. It's not the best, but it's reliable mechanically. It will last forever. Now here's the key you get in the Discovery 2, and it's the same as a key from a Rover 75, which is unsurprising really, considering they're the same kind of era, just with Land Rover logo and a different actual key bit. You can tell by a few things that this is a car of a different era. It is a car from the late 80s. These really thin door pillars here are a giveaway, and also the really upright windscreen and generally quite small A-pillars considering the size of the car. But you do have grab handles at the top. That's something I didn't point out before. They're quite good. Luxury. In the back there is some room, but it's all taken up by camping gear. As I said, Austin's just come back from a camping trip. But up here you have these nets, which are fantastic. Again, this car has all the practical needs you would ever need in a car, really. You have an armrest in the middle. Again, luxury. And on the doors, you do have electric windows in the back, along with a speaker. Again, luxury. Yeah, this car isn't very expensive, and that's part of the reason why. Another thing is, if we come around here, that's holding things on. In true Land Rover fashion, you have spare wheel on the boot lid. Opening the rear door, again open sideways because Land Rover. There is a hell of a lot of room in the back here. In the back you have the unmistakable Discovery design feature of these little windows up here. For the back two seats that make it a 7-seater, you have these, if I can pull them down. I have no idea how these work, I don't want to break it. They are the headrests. How brilliant's that? And they just fold into the roof there, away from everything. You also have another dome light there, and just a hell of a lot of room in the back here. Obviously 2 people can sit in here when you haven't got camping stuff in it. There's also a little pocket at the back here, and that is perfect for beers and bottle opener. Austin's really got his priorities right here. There is a door handle in the back to let people out. That makes sense. Make sure nothing's catching there. Perfect. As you may have noticed, this is a facelifted Discovery 2, launched in 2003, I think. Land Rover people will correct me on that. But there you get new front lights, and you also get new rear lights. But the real difference here is the locking centre differential, but only on higher spec models, not this one. All Series 2 Discoveries have traction control and hill descent controls, but they aren't as smooth or as controllable as a manual lockable differential. Some Discoveries also came with a hydraulically controlled anti-roll bar, making the car slightly more modern and making the height less of a problem when driving on the road. Interestingly, early concepts of this design utilised Rover's hydrogas suspension system, used at the time in the MGF, to provide different road holding characteristics compared to when driving off the road. The Discovery 2 was put out to pasture in 2004, being replaced with the capable, but quite ugly, in my opinion, Discovery 3. Driving wise, this car isn't the one you'd want to push on in, but that's true of any Land Rover. They're designed for off-roading, not the school run. Take note, British public. As with any Land Rover of this age, it is brilliant off-road. As I've said, it's based on the Range Rover chassis. There really isn't much more to say. This just isn't the kind of car to set your hair alight, but that isn't the point. It's a good, dependable, practical, cool off-road car that does everything you want it to do and more. The way this car moves, sounds and reacts to inputs give it personality, and that's what makes a car great. These originally came with airbags at the back and self-levelling suspension to stop a trailer making the entire balance of the car weird. And it is very bouncy over speed bumps from the rear of the car, but it does feel very smooth. Much smoother than a Defender. Not as smooth as a Range Rover would be, but this car is a lot cheaper than a Range Rover. This really is a great car, and all you could ever wish for from a 4x4. You don't really need much more. So thank you very much for watching this video. I hope you liked it. If you did, please give it a like, it really helps. Also, please comment with your thoughts about the Disco 2, and please subscribe and share it with your friends as well so I can make more of these videos. So So thank you for watching, and I will see you soon.